Hi lovelies, karibu sana to my YouTube channel. My name is Glynis. Thank you so much for joining us if you're new here. If you're a returning viewer, asante sana. And in case you're back and you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do so down below. And in today's video, I'll be doing a very highly requested video, which is law school study tips. So let's get into it. Guys have been reaching out to me via email and via Instagram, and I'm very grateful for all of you who've been watching these videos and coming to me and asking for advice. As I always say, I don't have a monopoly of knowledge, so I'm just giving you what has worked for me and what hopefully will work for you. The first study tip is make a to-do list. I said this in my previous video on habits of highly effective people, and I really do believe in it. The night before you go to bed, just make a to-do list of what you want to do regarding what is school based. Now, a couple of months ago, I did a very brief tutorial on how to use Trello, which is just an app that helps you organize your tasks. So I will insert a small clip here to show you how I plan my law school. So when you're planning a to-do list, usually you have a daily to-do list, a monthly to-do list, a semester's to-do list. So a semester's to-do list basically means you go to your course outline, you look at all the topics, and then the same topics you go and put them on a Trello board. So for instance, if I have 10 topics in criminal litigation, I'll put down the 10 topics, and each topic I'll put a title, and then in that title I'm going to put a checklist on the things I need to read in that topic. So what this does is it helps you, since you can very easily on Trello move a card from to be done to done, and it gives you so much satisfaction to see the work that you've been able to do. The second study tip I'm going to give you guys is get all the material you need beforehand. And this, as I said in the How to Survive Law School video, is very important, since a lot of people end up getting the notes that they needed at the end of the semester, and some of these notes are usually hundreds of pages. So the most important thing is, again, a course outline is very important in any unit in law school. Look through the course materials that you need to have. Most of the time lecturers give you these notes, other times you need to go to the library to get them. So just go so that you can have an idea of what you need for that unit, and you could get these materials in advance, whether it's a book you need to purchase, whether it's notes you need to photocopy, whether it's questions you need to have or articles you need to print. Please make sure you get them. That way you will never struggle to get notes. Another way to get your material in good time is, as you're in class, make sure you write notes, especially for lecturers who dictate notes. So I'd advise you to be very careful and very keen. Don't be those people who say that I'll get the notes from someone else, because what that does is the notes keep on accumulating, and by the time you're going to be getting the notes, there'll be so many. And as we know, research shows that you are more likely to remember things when you handwrite them than when you type them, or when you even photocopy and read them. So I encourage you, for units that lecturers dictate notes in class, please write them down. The third tip that I'm gonna give you is, please go to the library. The library is an amazing environment. It's very quiet. No one is allowed to have group discussions. As I said in last week's video, there are concepts that are quite complex, and you need to take some time to understand them and internalize them. For me, I personally believe the best environment is a library. There are people who argue that the library is not for them, but I would really advise try out the library. There is a whole requirement on how libraries need to be stocked in law schools. So I believe that whichever law school you're in, they have a very well suited library for you. Go to the library. If you're struggling with a concept in torts, if you're struggling with volentin and fit injuria, just go and get a torts textbook and read it. When you read it, it gives you a completely different perspective from maybe what was shared in class, and because you get another perspective, you're able to internalize it. And when you internalize it, it means that if you need to reproduce that information in an examination, you do not say exactly what was raised in class or what was written in the book, but you say it how you understood it, which is basically what lecturers look for. My fourth study tip is, once you've gone to the library and you've read the textbook and you've understood, for instance, what volentin and fit injuria is, I would recommend you make short notes. Now, these short notes, mind you, are not the same as the notes you've made in class. These are notes that you make after the session of studying. So you've gone to the library, you've picked up a torts textbook, you've read about this concept. Once you're back in your hostel or you're back home, write down from memory what you've understood. The beauty with that is you're able to know exactly how much you've captured. So for instance, if there was a case law in that particular concept, write it down and write the facts that you remember. If there were specific key pointers that you needed to know in that particular topic, note them down and say why this is very important to note. So when you write these short notes from memory, you're able to gauge, okay, I read 20 pages on this issue and I've been able to remember this key concept. The next time you go to study that topic, you will be able to know this is what I didn't properly understand and I completely understand this and I'm comfortable with it. The reason you do this not at the library but way is to make sure you have understood something. Even if you can only write down one line, do it, then that way you know that you haven't understood it and you can go back and read. The fifth study tip: please keep your phone away while you're studying. And there's a meme that's been going around WhatsApp, I'll insert it here. And when you're trying to study and your phone is just next to you, I know when a notification comes in, the temptation to look at it is way high. And it's very difficult to decide, no, I'll ignore the notification and I'll keep studying. A lot of the time you just think, okay, let me just check, maybe it's a friend texting me, and the next thing you know, you've spent an hour on your phone. So please, when you're reading, please put your phone on silent mode. I encourage you to put it inside a drawer or somewhere where it's out of sight. That way you're able to completely focus on studying and you don't have to be on your phone or on any social platform. The next study tip I'm going to give you guys is please allocate appropriate amount of time. And the reason I'm saying this is various units need a certain amount of time to internalize the concept. And I'll give you an example. When it comes to land law, if you're reading the history of land law, you'll need more than 2 hours. You might even need 3 hours because you'll be reading about the RTA, you're going to be reading about the RLA, you're going to be reading about all these registration systems of land, which span over what feels like, I think, 50 years. That's from pre-colonial times to the colonial times to the post-colonial era. So you can't read that in 30 minutes. But on the other hand, if you're reading child advocacy and you're reading the ethical duties of a lawyer and you're reading, for example, the lawyer's duty to opposing counsel, you can read that in 30 minutes. So this is also why the course outline is a very important document, because it shows you how many subtopics in that topic you need. That way you know, for conveyancing, since I'm reading a very lengthy thing, I'm going to need 2 hours. For child advocacy, because it's not as long, I'm going to need 45 minutes. For criminal litigation, since I'm reading a very long case, I'm also going to need 1.5 hours, and so on. So for each unit, understand where you are, understand the level of understanding, pick up the subtopics that you need to cover, and allocate the amount of time. Also, when we're saying allocate the necessary amount of time, if you have a very short concentration span, I encourage you to break it down. So you could say, since this topic is long, I'll do 45 minutes in the morning, and then I'll do another 45 minutes in the afternoon, and then I'll cover it. Because it also doesn't make sense to sit somewhere for 2 hours and lose concentration within the first 30 minutes. The next study tip, which probably should have been the first one, but it is, please make sure you have an appropriate studying environment. Personally, I cannot study with background music. I prefer total pin drop silence when I'm studying. So if there's someone who's probably cleaning the corridor, or there's someone who's fidgeting with a pen, I completely lose concentration. So if you're like me, make sure you beforehand prepare a very silent environment. Personally, when I'm home, I study from my room and I tell people I'm studying, so people know that they won't bother me when I'm studying. And that is why I also like the library, because the library is very strict. You can't make noise. If you're someone who prefers to study with music, I encourage you, please play instrumental music, because studies show that when you play instrumental music, your brain doesn't drift away to the music. It rather works in tandem with the music, as opposed to when you're playing music that actually has lyrics that are going on, because you end up thinking about the lyrics and lose train of thought when you're studying. So please get what works for you. those are my very few study tips. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this video has helped you, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Again, as I have said, I have no monopoly of knowledge, and maybe in future I will continue to tell you more about how I studied when I was in law school. But try and apply these tips and let me know how it goes. If you have any more study tips, please comment down below. I hope to see you next week's video, where I will be sharing a few life-changing time hacks that I have really been working on and have been doing so much for me. And as always, please don't forget to be kind to one another, but most importantly, don't forget to be kind to yourself. Bye. That's from pre-corona. Hey. And that's from pre-corona.